Hello, and welcome to the fifth episode in our series on Be Well, Be Whole. And today we are talking about meditation and the inward journey of spiritual well being. Meditation and the inward journey towards spiritual well being. And I came to meditation through a rather circuitous kind of path. You see, my background in spiritual life was prayer was a part of it, but prayer was not a thing that was done quietly. Prayer was a time of speaking, a time of noise. In fact, in high school, I started an evangelical music group, an evangelistic music group. And we chose the title Noise of Joy from Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. We understood our spiritual life to consist in making a noise. So we very much wanted to make noise when we came before God. It was much later, something like 10 to 15 years ago, that I began to discover silence and meditation and the benefits that came to one through meditation, through silence, through contemplation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm interested. Say a little bit about your own journey to meditation and some of the benefits that you have found in meditation.
Yeah, very similarly. My journey to meditation, yes, it also started with prayer as well. Um, I wasn't raised in the Pentecostal tradition. I was raised in the United Methodist Church, where prayers were rather traditional, but also in the Black church tradition, of course, prayers could also be emotive. So there was this combination of prayer. In any case, words were always involved.
Right.
There was no, focus on breathing, no focus on silence. And it wasn't until I got to seminary between my second and third year, and I became more interested in meditation and its benefits. And I took a class that focused on meditation and the inward journey. In fact, I took a couple of classes, and so I learned. The benefits, not only learn but experience the benefits of meditation and breathing. So in within the practice of meditation, there's a focus on the breath.
Mm-hmm.
When we consciously breathe and go into a meditative state, the benefits are physical, mental, and spiritual. So first, beginning with the physical, and I want to say too that meditation is it's an act of compassion for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a compassionate act. Um, so the physical benefits. Meditation and breathing lowers the blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It slows the heart rate. It also aids in digestion. Sometimes we can be so pent up
Mhm.
and tight that we don't function as well as we would.
In fact, I came to meditation through breathing in a time of fairly great amount of stress in my own life, you know, and so what you're saying is very, very, very much the case. Breathing really gave me stress reduction and the ability to kind of navigate stresses in a much better way.
Hmm. Hmm. And then, so with that, Dr. Larte, as the body begins to calm down through breathing, then um, our mental state, uh, there's a term, monkey mind.
Mm.
So when your mind is racing and you can't think clearly or focus on one thing, as you begin to breathe and your body relaxes, so also will the mind relax. Um, and if need be, as you begin to focus on your mind and your thinking, if you prefer, you can focus on a text, a favorite text, an affirmation. You can focus on a word.
Mhm.
And this will kind of help calm the mind and center your thoughts. And then the third thing, spiritually, your connection to God deepens. So there's this inward journey, the physical, the mental, and then the spiritual. And as it relates to our spiritual well-being, I'd like to say that meditation is a gateway to a more fruitful prayer life. So
Mm.
meditation and prayer um, do not have to be mutually exclusive,
Right.
right? So through meditation, we become more centered and more grounded, and we are able to better connect or realize our connection to God. We're never disconnected from God, but we are better able to realize our connection with God. And meditation also helps us to come to possibly answers to questions or solutions to problems. So in my prayer life, personally speaking, I now, before I pray, I meditate
Mhm.
as a precursor to my prayers. Mhm.
And you know, I am doing that also increasingly, and have been doing so. And also, you know, back to the breathing,
Mhm.
breathing. You know, it came to me as a real eye opener when I realized that what all I really needed to do was to focus on the breathing. It's more like, you know, we often think that we breathe,
Mhm.
but actually we are breathed.
That's right.
It's the breath of God. I have come to realize it's God's breath that gives us life, and so we are breathed. We cannot stop ourselves as much as we cannot stop our heartbeat, you
Right.
know, but we can draw our attention to our breathing, and we can take a little bit of control of the
Mhm.
way in which it happens. We can hold in and then breathe out, and just that, I have found that to be tremendously calming
Yeah.
and tremendously, it's like oxygenating your whole body, you know, it's
Mhm.
like really giving life to your body. So breathing has been for me a tremendous boost, like you were saying, a tremendous boost to my relationship with God, my prayer, And I find it to be tremendously beneficial.
Yeah, and it seems to me, um, when we turn ourselves to our breathing, when we consciously breathe, it also reminds us of our humanity.
Mhm.
I think sometimes that, when we're busy, especially now, there's so many things competing for our attention. Some of us have actually become busier in quarantine,
Absolutely.
and we forget that we are human beings. We're not machines. So to turn inward and to focus on our breathing or our being breathed, it's a reminder of our humanity
Mhm.
and the divinity within. Yeah.
It's a beautiful connection with the divine
Mhm. Mhm.
because we realize that it is the breath of God that God breathed into us that we continue in. And so we are made aware of our own humanity. And we're
Mhm.
also made aware of our connection with God.
Mhm. 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 Frontline workers, I'm thinking about frontline workers, social activists,
Mhm.
those of us with high stress jobs with heavy loads of responsibility have much to gain by taking a few moments to breathe
Mhm.
and meditate. Um, and the thing about conscious breathing and meditation, you don't necessarily have to start with a class. You don't have to sign up for this. You can. Absolutely. It won't there's no harm
Yeah.
in signing up for a class, but taking a moment to be still and to be quiet and to consciously breathe does not require any investment on our part.
Mhm.
And we can all afford 60, 90, 2 minutes, 60 seconds, 2 minutes to just stop and breathe. In fact, when I started the practice of meditation and conscious breathing, it became my habit to before a new activity.
Mhm.
As I end one thing and I begin another, I would stop and breathe and be still before the next thing. Um, I think it's a good practice for all of us
Mhm.
when we're on the go. Before we go to that next thing, to just take a few moments to stop and breathe and center down, as
Mhm.
Howard Thurman says, to center down. Yeah.
It also increases my ability to listen
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it gives me a moment of quietness when I can hear better. And as a person involved in pastoral care and pastoral counseling, listening is key.
Right.
So yeah, that and also like you're saying, the frontline workers and so on. The gift that we can give to each other is to listen for what they are experiencing, and listen to God.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 1 minute, that 2 minute period when I am silent, it increases my hearing and my listening capacities.
I when I was training to be a chaplain, when I did clinical pastoral education, None of that training was in an emergency room. Um, so I say that, preemptively because I'm about to suggest for doctors
Mhm.
and nurses in between patients, our doctors and nurses are going in and out of rooms.
Yes.
I think it's well worth um, for the frontline workers' well-being to take a beat before you open that door
Yes.
to breathe, even 10 to 15 seconds. Because many times you just don't know what's on the other side of the door.
Yes.
And I think it'll make a world of difference for the caregiver
Mm.
and the one receiving care for us to take a beat
Mm.
and just take 3 full breaths before we encounter the next person.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
I wonder, Dr. Larte, before we end our time, if you would like to take us through a short um, breathing cycle and a short meditation.
Okay. So I'm going to invite us to take a cycle of 3 breaths. And so if you just position yourself in a comfortable place with your back straight, and if you're sitting with your feet on the ground, or if you're standing in a position where you are relaxed, and then just focus your attention on the breath as you take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, just imagine the breath of God, the breath of life coming into your being. Imagine the love of God coming into your being. And then as you breathe out, pour that breath, pour that love upon yourself and upon others. And now take a second deep breath in. And as you breathe in, think about the peace of God. Breathe in the peace of God. And then with your out breath, pour the peace of God upon your being and upon those around you. And then third and finally, breathe in the compassion of God. As you breathe in, imagine God's compassion flooding your being until you are infused with compassion. And then as you breathe out, pour compassion on yourself. Have mercy on yourself and upon all those around you. And so may the love, the peace, and the compassion of God that we have received and that we have poured out surround us and enable us to deal with everything that we have to deal with in these days.
Ashe.
Ashe.